Okay, when installing these seals on the shaft, make sure you install them properly, not wrong. The wrong direction. I had them the wrong direction, which is like that, which is not right. This goes like this. So that lip seal goes on here. Okay. I had them backwards. I put them on that way. Okay. And I use my tool to pound them on. All right, when I push this shaft in, I kind of pushed it down a little bit and it picked up that shaft, and I kept doing that all the way. And lifted the end of that shaft up and went inside the seal inside the pumpkin, and I pushed the whole thing straight in there. Went right in there really nice. I didn't have to pound it or anything. I originally put the seals on backwards. I get on properly now. So we will proceed to put this side together. Okay. Got the new hub bearing and new dust shield. Something like that. This is on the driver's side. The tab goes on the other side of the wire. Before you put that on, don't forget your plastic washer. Put some grease on it on both sides, and then put it in there with the hexes facing you. And then now you can pick up that whole unit and put it on there. And then the new ones sometimes don't come with studs, but they do come with studs. Put them in there and snug them up. And it helps hold the heat shield in place so you can put it in. And then you can go from behind and put your nuts on once you get that in there. Okay. Okay, I got it on there, and that's the way it looks. And don't forget to put your 8mm on here to hold your wire. Goes like that, okay? Bolt goes that way, and this wire harness goes like that. Okay, and then got your nuts on the other side, tighten them up. I'm gonna tighten them to 80 foot-pounds. Okay, and then we'll move on. Okay. Now we got that figured out. I had the seal in backwards, so I straightened it out. So now I got the hub torqued to 100 foot-pounds. I got the nuts in the back torqued as tight as I can get them. Next would be these. So let's put a light film of grease on them. You got a washer, fake nut, and a washer, and then your snap ring, okay? Okay. Make sure your snap ring snaps into that groove. If you can't get it in, then you have to go on this side and push the axle towards you. Okay? All right. So that's good. Now we're ready for the outer part. Okay. Make sure your O-ring's pretty decent so it seals inside there. Push it in there. It should line up. If it don't line up, you just have to turn the hub a little bit to get it in there. And the next you need to do is put your snap ring in, which is this one. That one you squeeze together to push in there. And then also make sure it snaps into the groove. Okay? Okay. Make sure you push it in and make sure you push that snap ring up all the way around, and it gets into that groove and locks in, okay? All right, so now we're ready to do our ABS line. Make sure you put it in there with that bolt, 8mm head bolt. And it goes like that, okay? Okay, put a fine film of anti-seize on your hub, and then clean off your rotors to get that shipping oil off. Use some soap and water, or you can wipe some brake clean on it, or even some glass cleaner. And then get your caliper bracket. Remember I told you to clean them up inside there, get all the rust out, and then paint them. And then put some Seal Glide on your slides, on your boots, okay? Clean them up. Now we'll bolt them up. And we want to torque that to 110 foot-pounds. Okay, you got your pistons pushed in on your calipers. Use a C-clamp and an old pad, or use a special tool to the ratchet tool to bring them in, or a pair of big channel locks, and you gotta do them one at a time. Be careful with them. Also, now here's the pads. Let's see. They all got those tits on them. Yeah, they all got the tits on them, so gotta watch out for the tits when you go back pulling it apart. Okay, so now you put the pad in at an angle to push those springs in, and you give it a little twist. Let's see if I get in here a little bit better. Go like in the bottom and the top, push them down, push that spring best you can. Kind of tight. Push it in there like that. Push that one in there like that. And then give it a good push. Sometimes I need two hands. Let's see. It's in there. It's a little tight. Sometimes you have to grind them down just a little bit. I need aftermarket pad on this surface here because they're too tight. Don't like doing that, but I might have to. Maybe I'll try a different pad. All right. Aftermarket pads. Had to grind them down a little bit. Just a little bit. A little bit at a time to actually different spots that actually works the best. So this is actually how a pad should be installed. Just like that. Okay. So hopefully it's good. Now we can put this one on the inside and see how that one goes on the inside. And use it for a pattern. Hopefully it works good on the inside. So we'll see. I'll have to have two hands. Okay, I had to do the same thing on the outside, most likely. That's the way they should go in. Okay. Should be able to move them. If you can't move them, they're too tight and they won't move freely inside the bracket. Okay, now it's time to put your brake caliper on and tighten your bolts to 35 foot-pounds for the caliper bolts. All right, you got the caliper bolts tight. Make sure your brake line is not twisted. This is the way it looks, normal. Pre-loop. Don't forget your vacuum line. Goes through the little hoops. Your ABS hose line, wire harness goes this way, up and around there. And then up inside here, it's supposed to be clip right there, but the clips are broken on it. So I zip tied it up here, up out of the way. Then all I gotta do is put my tie rod in on, tighten that up, put a cotter pin on it. And then the next thing I need to do is do the other side exactly the same way. And put my tire on and torque my tires to 140 foot-pounds. And then go inside the cab. Pump up the brake pedal and make sure I get a good firm pedal before I go and put it in drive or reverse. If you don't do that, you won't have any brakes, okay? So that will complete this complete job. Hopefully you understand everything. Hopefully everything's good for you. Otherwise, all right, you got the brake pads in there and they move nice and freely. So now you gotta put little springs in there, and the springs won't stay in because the pads move too freely. So I gotta have to hold the pads together and hold the springs in when I put my caliper on. So when you put the caliper on, make sure the hose is not twisted, okay? Okay, you got the caliper on, make sure you got the notch on the caliper lined up with the slide pins, top and bottom. Then you can put your bolt in there and start the threads. Once you get them both started, then you can snug them up and make sure that that slide pin's on that groove on the caliper. There's one on the top and one on the bottom, and you want to torque those 35 foot-pounds, and then make sure your brake line is not twisted. Make sure it's got a nice even flow to it, and also make sure you hook up your vacuum line for your front diff. Okay, and that's what it looks like. All right. Now, if you didn't disconnect your front suspension tie rods, then you can go ahead and put your tires on and torque them to 140 foot-pounds. But if you did take your suspension loose, then you got to put your tie rods back on and your castle nuts and put your cotter pins inside there. And when you're done, make sure you go inside the cab and pump your brake pedal. Make sure you got a decent pedal that's firm before you go and put it in drive or reverse. Otherwise, you won't have any brakes. Okay, so that's it. If I helped you out with any of this, that's awesome. If you could help me out by subscribing, I appreciate it. And if you already have, I want to thank you. Okay, and that's it.